Alright, Shalom. All praise to Yahweh Shem Shah. Double honor to the Apostle GMS. My name is Amnal Allah. Coming at you with a video. Now, I did this video yesterday with another brother, but for some reason the video just cut short in the midst of the video. And I didn't realize until I was done. And I just went to repair, and I only got about 6 minutes and 9 seconds of the video. The video probably maybe 15 minutes. So I'm just going to do it now. Do it over. And plus the sound was all kind of fuzzy So basically I'm going to be going into the JCPOA. I believe that stands for Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which we're going to go into that anyway. So if I said it wrong, you'll be informed what it's called later on in the video. But basically it's going to the whole thing about the U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, which Donald Trump reneged on not too many days ago. And the nations are angry. His allies are angry, so let's get right into it. This is Matthew chapter 12, verse 25. And Yahweh Shah knew their thoughts. This is Yahweh Shah speaking to the Pharisees. And Yahweh Shah knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So a kingdom divided against itself is going into desolation. Because why? A kingdom has to be in agreement with itself. If you have a kingdom where the rulers, governors, people of positions of authority are not in agreement with one another, then that kingdom will eventually fall. Okay? Because in the kingdom of heaven, there's not going to be any Republicans and any Democrats like how it is now, or any plebeians and patricians the way it was back in ancient Rome. It ain't going to be like that. We're going to be governed by the scriptures. But today, this kingdom of America is divided against itself, along with its own allies, and it's going to be brought into desolation. And it's not going to stand. Let's get into some of that right now. This is from www.thenation.com, and it says, is Trump's abandonment of the Iran nuke deal a prelude to war? Which the Iran nuclear deal was basically what it had to do was it was based upon limiting Iran's capability of nuclear weapons in exchange for sanctions being lifted from Iran that was placed on it internationally. That's basically what the whole Iran nuclear deal is, also known as the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And it says, his advisors, as well as Israel and Saudi Arabia, will be pushing for one, which is why we have to act now to stop it. What, pushing for a war? Well, we don't want it to stop, we want it to happen, so we can get the hell out of here. It says President Trump's decision to abandon the Iran nuclear deal ranks as his most reckless policy move yet. It is also his biggest triumph so far in his continual bid to reverse or shatter every one of his nemesis' President's major accomplishments, regardless of consequences. Okay? And there will be consequences. Some may turn out to be rather narrow, but others could have a global impact. Some may emerge as the direct result of U.S. actions, while others will depend on how other governments and non-governmental actors respond. Life will almost certainly become more difficult for ordinary Iranians, who are still coping with crippling U.S.-imposed economic sanctions unrelated to the nuclear deal. The worst outcome, of course, would be a full-scale regional or even global war, such a conflict could even lead to the unthinkable, the use of nuclear weapons by one or several nuclear weapon states. That list, we should remember, does not include Iran. And while war is certainly not inevitable, we need to recognize that there are many ways in which one could come about. One of the most commonly discussed could result from an Iranian decision to respond in kind to Trump's violation of the deal known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA. See? That's what I said earlier. But first, it must be emphasized that virtually all intelligence and non-proliferation agencies in the world, from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, to all 16 U.S. intelligence agencies, the intelligence communities of all the signatories to the deal, and even top Israeli military officials agree, grudgingly or not, that Iran has complied with the JCPOA. Trump's claims all had to do with what he asserted were the insufficiencies of the JCPOA's terms, not that Iran had violated these terms. Trump's withdrawal from the deal and his reimposition of the nuclear-related sanctions that the JCPOA required the United States to lift constitutes the only violation so far. And so far, Iran has made clear that it intends to stick to the terms of the deal based on the fact that the other 6 signatories, Britain, China, France, Germany, Russia, and the EU, are still on board. So Britain, France, and Germany are all U.S. allies. Britain or England, France, which are the Gauls, Germany, which is Germania Major, Germania Minor, those are all part of the what? The 7 heads, man, and the 10 horns. Those 3 nations that I mentioned. But if forces within the Iranian government that were always skeptical of the deal, used the U.S. withdrawal to gain the upper hand and get Tehran to withdraw from it. The consequences could be incredibly dangerous, since not only the Trump regime in Washington, but Israel and Saudi Arabia too will almost certainly respond by calling for war. What is preventing such a move so far is the Iranian government's maturity and commitment to diplomacy. It's more than I can read, but I'm not going to read. I want to read the whole article. I'll be here all day. Let's go back to the scriptures. Verse 26, Matthew 12:26. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? So you see how I mentioned how 3 of the U.S. allies, which are Germany, France, and Britain, they're still on board, even though the U.S. scrapped the deal, which shows you what? Esau's kingdom is divided against his own self. Okay? So I'm going to go to let me read another article. I don't want to read this whole article. I'll be here all day. Okay, here's another article. It says, it's from NBCnews.com. Key European allies vow to uphold Iran nuclear deal after Trump reneges. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani said the nation will continue talks with other parties to the agreement. Key European allies expressed grave concerns over President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the Iran nuclear agreement on Tuesday, vowing to continue the work of limiting Iran's nuclear program while targeting the U.S. not to jeopardize gains already made under the deal. In a joint statement issued at the Trump announcement, French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Theresa May, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel implored Iran to show restraint following the decision to call the U.S. to do everything possible to preserve the gains to nuclear non-proliferation. Which proliferation means like the spread. It's something that is spreading. So non-proliferation means to prevent something from spreading. Which is what? Nuclear weapons. Now let's say Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, right? Let's say they don't got it. Russia got it. And Russia and Iran are allies. So even if Iran don't have nuclear weapons, the U.S. still got they can still give it to Russia. They can still be given weapons by Russia. Okay. It says to preserve the gains of nuclear non-proliferation brought about by the JCPOA by allowing for a continued enforcement of its main elements. Macron also tweeted that the 3 countries, America and Iran's partners in the JCPOA or Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, regret the U.S. decision, adding that the nations will work collectively on a broader framework moving forward. So that right there shows you the U.S. allies are not even down with what it is that the U.S. is doing. So Donald Trump is basically doing his own damn thing. Trump announced his decision to leave the JCPOA Tuesday afternoon, reneging on the landmark Obama-era accord, which also includes Russia and China, and raising the question of whether Tehran might respond by resuming its frozen weapons program. Trump also says, so you're saying basically, oh well, they're supposed to lift the sanctions from Iran in response to Iran limits Iran limits the nuclear. The whole thing about the deal was that Iran limited their capability for producing a nuclear weapon in exchange for sanctions being lifted off internationally. So now, if you're not going to lift the sanctions off of Iran for them limiting their nuclear arsenal, then that's going to make them say, oh well, you don't want to lift the sanctions. So now they're going to continue making more weapons. So now, a World War III is brewing, which had already been brewing, but we're getting closer. Trump also gave the scripture, because the brother did the show with, put the scripture out during the show. All right? Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth the whether he will. So the king's heart, which in this case, this king is Donald Trump. His heart, meaning his mind, is in the hand of the Lord, meaning it's in the power of the Lord. And as the rivers of water, he turneth it whether he will. So just as the Most High controls the rivers of water, just as the Most High controls the tides, just as the Most High can hold still the floods, just as he can control the water and turn it whethersoever he will, he does the same thing with the heart of man. He frames their mind to what he wants to frame their mind. He molds their minds and manipulates man's mind to make the decisions that he wants them to make. So Donald Trump is just doing what the Lord wants him to do. It says Trump also said that he would impose the highest level of economic sanctions, which would affect not only Iran but other countries that do business with it. In 2015, Iran agreed to halt its pursuit of nuclear weapons and to allow international checks on its facilities in exchange for moves by the U.S., several other countries, and the United Nations to roll back sanctions that had crippled its economy. See, that's the whole thing is about. All right. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, in a televised speech, said, "Though America's withdrawal amounted to psychological warfare, it will continue its talks with resuming parties to the deal. We've known for months that President Trump wouldn't be committed to this deal," Rouhani said. The Iranian Foreign Ministry will continue talks with remaining countries on a deal. "I want to emphasize that people should not have any worries about the future of this country," he added. "These people are more united than ever, and there will be peace and stability in Iran." Syrian state media also reported that the country is standing behind Iran and condemned Trump's withdrawal, saying it proved the U.S. is not committed to international agreements. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been a consistent critic of the deal, chaired Trump's decision, saying the agreement did not block Iran's path to a nuclear bomb, and the current framework of the deal was a recipe for disaster. Okay? So some of the U.S. allies are with it, some of the allies are not with it. The deal didn't reduce Iran's aggression, it dramatically increased it, he said at a news conference Tuesday. This is why Israel thinks that President Trump did a historic move, and this is why Israel thanks President Trump for his courageous leadership. Prince Khalid bin Salman, the Saudi ambassador to the U.S., also tweeted his support of Trump's action, saying that the country always had reservations about the agreement. Okay? The United Arab Emirates Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Anwar Gargash, also heard the U.S. decision and called the agreement a flawed deal. The veneer of Tehran's compliance contradicted its bellicose policies. Look at the word bellicose. Policies, he said in a tweet, President Trump's decision is the correct one. So now, don't forget, we read this right here, though. What did we just read here? We read that, it says in a joint statement issued at the Trump announcement, French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Theresa May, and German Chancellor Angela Merkel implored Iran to show restraint following the decision and called on the U.S. to do everything possible to preserve the gains for nuclear non-proliferation brought about by the JCPOA. So basically, you got the United States allies that's still down with this deal, right? Look at this word bellicose. Demonstrating aggression and willingness to fight. So bellicose policies, as you read down here. The veneer of Tehran's compliance contradicted its bellicose policies, or aggressive policies, basically. Iran deal, Trump breaks with European allies over horrible one-sided nuclear agreement. Right? It says, it's a lot of information. I want to kind of close this video out. See if I can find something here that I was looking for. Alright, it says, right here, it says, we'll jump down, it says, the French President Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel had come to the White House in the weeks before Their failure to sway Trump was a striking measure of how little influence Europe has on this White House. On this White House, which has sided instead with Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates on a major strategic decision. All the nations that's not a part of the beast, 7 heads and 10 horns. There is a question about how aggressive Europe wants to be to keep the deal alive, said Peter Harrell, a former senior State Department sanctions official now at the Center for a New American Security. Without an active effort by the EU to keep European companies in Iran and resist U.S. pressure, you will see big companies leaving. So this is a big thing now. Even if you just read down, I'm kind of scrolling down now. It says the European Union's chief diplomat Federica Mogherini, who helped oversee the accord, insisted it was delivering on its goal, which is guaranteeing that Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapons. The European Union is determined to preserve it. So the European Union is determined to preserve this deal. But the U.S. just scrapped the deal. So you know they're upset at the U.S. They really read how it said Europe doesn't have an influence on its White House. This is Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns, the European Union, these shall hate the whore, which is who? America. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So it's comparing America to a whore, to a woman that's being made desolate and being stripped. Stripped meaning what? Being naked. Being naked meaning she was stripped. Meaning she was made bare. Meaning she was uncovered. Meaning everyone saw her shame. The world saw her shame. So the world is seeing America's shame right now. Here you go. Here America goes, making deals behind, scrapping deals, that's against their allies' wishes. And you know they're upset about that. That's disrespect on a global scale. And shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So John saw this, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Saw the beast strip the woman, make her desolate, devour her, and burn her with fire. And her being devoured and burned with fire is referencing what? Her being destroyed by thermonuclear destruction and coming third world war. So at that, we'll close. I hope brothers learned something. I'm going to say all praise to Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Kakwadash, Shalom.